The diplomatic vessel Eternal Dawn drifted silently through the darkness of space, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. Ambassador Zarek Tell stood at the observation deck, her four eyes fixed on the distant nebula that marked the border of consortium space. As first contact specialist for the Galactic Consortium, she had witnessed countless first meetings between civilizations, but nothing had prepared her for what she was about to encounter. 3 cycles ago, reports had begun flooding in from across the galaxy of a mysterious ship that appeared without warning to defend smaller civilizations from aggressive expansion. The vessel, described as darker than the void itself, had never communicated its intentions or origins. It simply appeared, acted, and vanished. "Ambassador," called out Navigator Trend from behind her, his voice carrying the distinct harmonic overtones of their species. "We're receiving a distress signal from the Meridian colony." Zara's secondary hearts quickened their pace. The Meridian colony was supposed to be under their protection, yet they had failed to station a defensive fleet there due to the ongoing border dispute with the hegemony. "Set course immediately. Maximum speed." As the Eternal Dawn altered its trajectory, Zara reviewed the latest intelligence reports on her neural interface. The hegemony had been pushing boundaries lately, testing the consortium's resolve with increasingly bold incursions into neutral space. The Meridian colony, with its rich deposits of quantum crystals, would make a tempting target. They emerged from fold space 12 hours later to find the colony under siege. 3 hegemony dreadnoughts loomed over the small settlement, their weapon systems cycling up for another bombardment. The colony's minimal defenses were already in ruins. "This is Ambassador Zarek Tell of the Galactic Consortium." She broadcast on all frequencies. "Cease your attack immediately. This colony is under our protection." The response came swiftly, dripping with contempt. The consortium abandoned their claim when they failed to maintain a defensive presence. The hegemony claims this territory by right of conquest. Zara's appendages trembled with barely contained fury. The Eternal Dawn was a diplomatic vessel. It carried minimal weapons and wouldn't last seconds against 3 dreadnoughts. She was about to order an emergency retreat when every sensor on the bridge lit up simultaneously. Space itself seemed to bend and twist, the stars behind the hegemony fleet distorting like light through water. Then it appeared, a ship of impossible proportions, its hull seeming to absorb rather than reflect light. It was easily twice the size of a dreadnought, yet it had appeared without triggering a single proximity alarm. "By the first light," whispered Navigator Tren. The stories were true. The mysterious vessel hung motionless for several seconds, as if giving the hegemony fleet a chance to reconsider their actions. When they responded by launching a full spread of quantum torpedoes, Zara witnessed something that would change her understanding of warfare forever. The torpedoes simply vanished. Not intercepted, not detonated. They ceased to exist the moment they came within a certain radius of the black ship. The hegemony commanders, obviously shocked, ordered their dreadnoughts to open fire with their main batteries. The results were the same. Then the black ship responded. There was no visible weapon discharge, no energy signature that their sensors could detect. The 3 hegemony dreadnoughts simply went dark, their engines and weapons shutting down simultaneously. They hung there, dead in space, as helpless as fragments of debris. A transmission cut through all frequencies, in perfect consortium standard. "This colony is now under our protection. You have 1 hour to evacuate your vessels before life support systems fail. This is your only warning." The hegemony crews wasted no time. Escape pods launched in waves from the disabled dreadnoughts, their occupants no doubt shocked to find their supposedly superior technology rendered useless by an unknown force. Zara watched in amazement as the black ship maintained its position, ensuring every escape pod made it to a safe distance. Only then did it acknowledge the Eternal Dawn's presence, transmitting a simple text message. "The colonists are safe. They will require medical assistance and supplies. Humanity stands ready to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Before Zora could formulate a response, the massive vessel began to fade from view, not through any cloaking technology she was familiar with, but as if it were phasing out of reality itself. Within seconds, it was gone, leaving behind 3 dead dreadnoughts and 1,000 questions. As her crew rushed to assist the colonists, Zara remained at the observation window, her mind racing. In all her years of diplomatic service, she had never encountered a species that wielded such power with such precise restraint. They could have destroyed the hegemony fleet, yet they chose to disable it. They could have demanded tribute from those they protected, yet they asked for nothing in return. Humanity. She whispered the word, testing how it felt. The record spoke of them as a young species from a distant arm of the galaxy, one that had kept to themselves after achieving faster-than-light travel. Now she understood why. They hadn't been hiding. They had been preparing, developing technologies beyond anything the galaxy's major powers could imagine. As she coordinated the relief efforts for the colony, Zara began composing her report to the Consortium Council. How does one explain that the galaxy's balance of power had shifted overnight? That a species most had dismissed as insignificant had emerged as the silent guardians of the weak. One thing was certain: the age of unchecked expansion and military dominance was over. Humanity had changed the rules of the game, and they hadn't fired a single shot to do it. High Admiral Xerxes of the Galactic Defense Council stood before the assembled representatives of 17 spacefaring civilizations, his scaled skin reflecting the harsh light of the emergency session chamber. The holographic displays behind him showed the same image from different angles, the now infamous black ship that had humbled the hegemony's finest dreadnoughts. In the past 3 months, he began, his translator converting his natural clicks into standard speech, we have confirmed 37 similar incidents across 12 sectors. In each case, the pattern remains identical. A stronger force attempts to subjugate a weaker civilization, and these human vessels appear to intervene. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices and electromagnetic pulses, the various species' natural forms of communication, creating a cacophony of concern and disbelief. Xerxes raised all 4 of his primary limbs for silence. More significantly, our deep space monitoring stations have detected evidence that what we're seeing is not a single vessel, but rather an entire network of these ships, operating in perfect coordination across vast distances of space. Ambassador Zarek Tel, recently promoted after her encounter at Meridian Colony, leaned forward in her gravity cradle. Have we managed to track any of these vessels to their point of origin? No, Xerxes admitted. Their method of faster-than-light travel appears to operate on principles we don't understand. They don't use conventional jump points or fold space. They simply appear and disappear at will. A representative of the silicon consciousness, their crystalline form pulsing with internal light, transmitted their thoughts directly to the assembly's neural interfaces. Our analysis suggests that the humans have developed technology based on principles that contradict our understanding of physical laws. Their ships don't just bend space. They exist in multiple spatial states simultaneously. The revelation sent another wave of murmurs through the chamber. The implications were staggering. If humanity had indeed mastered such technology, their apparent restraint in using it became even more significant. There's more, Xerxes continued, his voice grave. We've detected quantum signatures suggesting these ships maintain a constant presence near every major population center in known space. They're watching us, all of us. Right now. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just developed superior technology. They had deployed it on a scale that boggled the mind. Every major civilization in the galaxy was under constant surveillance, yet none had detected this network until the humans chose to reveal themselves. A harsh laugh cut through the silence. Supreme Commander Vex of the Hegemony Military Council, attending virtually after their defeat at Meridian, couldn't contain his scorn. Are we to simply accept that this young species has appointed themselves the galaxy's peacekeepers? Who gave them this authority? They took it, Zara responded, rising from her gravity cradle. But more importantly, look how they've chosen to use it. They haven't demanded tribute. They haven't established colonies in our territories. They haven't even asked for diplomatic recognition. They simply protect those who need protection. And what happens when they decide we need more than protection? Vex demanded. What happens when they decide to impose their will upon us all? Before anyone could respond, every display in the chamber activated simultaneously. The image of the black ship was replaced by a simple text message. We are not your masters. We are not your conquerors. We are your conscience. Xerxes watched as the message faded away, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The humans had been listening to their entire debate. Of course they had, and had chosen this moment to make their philosophy clear. "Admiral," one of his aides whispered urgently, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy." This same message just appeared on every communications device in every civilization simultaneously. The level of coordination required. Xerxes raised a hand to silence him. He understood the implications. Humanity hadn't just surpassed them technologically. They had achieved a level of unified purpose and coordination that made their own political squabbles seem primitive by comparison. "I believe," Zara spoke into the silence, "we need to consider the possibility that humanity's advancement isn't purely technological. Their actions suggest a species that has evolved beyond the petty conflicts and power struggles that still plague our civilizations. Or perhaps, the silicon consciousness transmitted, they remember all too well what such conflicts cost. Our historical records of Earth show a species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times before reaching the stars. Perhaps they are determined to prevent others from following the same path." As the debate continued, Xerxes found his gaze drawn to the empty space where the black ship's image had been. He had spent his entire career preparing to defend against threats from beyond known space, never imagining that salvation would come from a species they had all underestimated. The Shadow Fleet was out there, watching, waiting, ready to step in whenever the strong threatened the weak. They had created a new kind of peace, not through fear or dominance, but through the simple knowledge that somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity stood guard. The question now was not whether to accept this new reality, but how to adapt to a galaxy where technological superiority no longer guaranteed the right to expand at others' expense. Humanity had changed the rules of cosmic civilization, and they had done it without firing a single shot in anger. Supreme Commander Vex watched from the bridge of his new flagship as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the Centauri cluster, a region home to dozens of developing civilizations. Behind him, the combined might of 3 stellar empires filled space with the gleam of advanced warships, the largest fleet assembled in a millennium. "All ships report ready," his tactical officer announced. "The hegemony, Diraxian Empire, and Cronan hierarchy forces are in position." Vex's facial scales rippled with satisfaction. It had taken months of secret negotiations to forge this alliance, united by a single purpose: to force humanity's hand. The plan was simple but decisive. Simultaneous attacks on multiple developing worlds would stretch the humans' response capability to its limit. "Begin the operation," Vex commanded. "Remember, we need enough destruction to draw them out, but maintain contingencies for their interference." Across the cluster, the massive fleet split into smaller attack groups, each targeting a different civilization. Some were still confined to their home systems, others had just achieved faster-than-light travel. All were helpless against the combined technological might of 3 ancient empires. The first attacks went exactly as planned. Defense systems were overwhelmed, orbital stations destroyed, and colonies reduced to rubble. Vex watched the reports flow in with cold satisfaction. Let the humans try to protect everyone at once. Let them reveal the limits of their power. Then something changed. It started with a subtle distortion in space, barely noticeable against the backdrop of stars. Then another appeared, and another, until the entire region seemed to ripple like the surface of a disturbed pond. When the distortions cleared, Vex found himself staring at not one black ship, but hundreds. They emerged simultaneously across the entire cluster, each positioned to intercept an attack group. The humans had anticipated their strategy and prepared accordingly. But instead of immediately disabling the attacking ships as expected, the black ships simply held position. A transmission cut through all frequencies, broadcast in every known language simultaneously. You wish to test our resolve. We accept your challenge, but we will set the parameters. Before anyone could react, space itself seemed to twist. When Vex's vision cleared, he found his entire fleet had been transported to an empty region of space, far from any civilian targets. The black ships surrounded them in a perfect sphere formation, but maintained their distance. "What is this?" Vex demanded over the fleet-wide channel. "If you mean to stop us, then stop us." "We already have," came the reply. "Look at your navigation systems." Vex's blood ran cold as he examined the readings. Somehow, the humans had transported them thousands of light years from their original position in an instant. More importantly, they had done so with such precision that not a single ship in the massive fleet had been damaged by the transition. "You believe our protection of others stems from technological superiority alone," the human voice continued. "Allow us to demonstrate otherwise." The black ships began to move, not to attack, but to form complex geometric patterns around the fleet. As they moved, they emitted energy signatures unlike anything Vex had ever seen. His sensors tried to analyze them and failed, showing impossible readings that changed faster than the computers could process. "We could destroy your fleet with a thought," the voice explained. "We could strand you in the void between galaxies. We could send you back in time to witness the birth of your own stars. But we choose not to, because power without wisdom is nothing but another form of violence." The patterns continued to shift, each movement demonstrating capabilities that defied the laws of physics as Vex understood them. His crew watched in stunned silence as reality itself seemed to bend to human will. "You sought to force our hand by threatening the innocent. Instead, you have given us the opportunity to teach. Observe." Suddenly, every screen on every ship in the fleet filled with images, countless scenes of humanity's own violent history. Wars, genocides, environmental disasters, all leading to a moment of profound change. They watched as humans turned away from conquest and dominance, choosing instead to become guardians of peace. "We protect others because we remember when there was no one to protect us," the voice continued. "We stand vigilant because we know the price of unchecked aggression. We choose restraint because we understand that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to preserve." The images faded, replaced by real-time feeds from the civilizations they had attacked. Already, other black ships were there, not just repairing the damage but improving defenses, healing the injured, advancing medical technology centuries beyond its natural development. "Your actions have not weakened our resolve," the voice concluded. "They have only ensured that those you sought to harm will emerge stronger, more united, and better protected. Remember this lesson well." With another twist of space, Vex's fleet found itself back in their home systems, separated by vast distances, as if they had never gathered at all. But something had changed. Every ship's computer core now contained detailed records of what they had witnessed, proof that would be impossible to suppress or deny. Vex stood on his bridge, scales pale with the realization of what they had done, and what humanity had chosen not to do in response. They had sought to expose humanity's limitations, only to discover that their greatest power lay in their restraint. As his crew began the process of coming to terms with what they had witnessed, a final message appeared on his personal display. "The test is complete, but the lesson has only begun." Dr. Elena Chen stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Chamber of New Geneva Station, the first human to ever address this assembly directly. Through the vast transparent dome above, Earth's familiar blue sphere hung against the backdrop of stars, a reminder of how far her species had come. The chamber held representatives from every major civilization in known space, their forms as diverse as the worlds they called home. They had come seeking answers after the incident in the Centauri cluster, and humanity had finally decided it was time to provide them. "You've all seen our ships," Elena began, her voice calm but carrying to every corner of the vast space. "You've witnessed our technology. You've experienced our intervention. But you don't understand why. Today, that changes." With a gesture, she activated the chamber's holographic systems. The space above the assembly filled with images of Earth's history, not the sanitized version they had allowed the galaxy to see, but the true record of humanity's journey. 200 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves, Elena continued. Not through war alone, though we had plenty of those. Not through environmental disaster, though we came close. We nearly destroyed ourselves through the simple belief that power gave us the right to dominate others. The images shifted, showing the turning point, the great crisis that had forced humanity to confront its own nature. We stood at the edge of extinction, our world burning, our children inheriting nothing but ash and radiation. And then we made a choice. The hologram showed the first awakening, the moment when humanity's combined scientific endeavors had led to the discovery of consciousness manipulation at the quantum level. We found that consciousness itself was fundamental to the universe, not emergent from it. When we learned to access this underlying field, we gained power beyond imagination. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as the implications became clear. The silicon consciousness's crystalline form pulsed rapidly. You transcended physical evolution. Yes, Elena nodded. But more importantly, we transcended our own limitations. We could have used this power to dominate, to rebuild our world by taking from others. Instead, we chose to look outward, to find purpose in protection rather than conquest. The images changed again, showing the development of the black ships. These vessels aren't just technology. They're extensions of human consciousness, powered by the combined will of millions of minds working in perfect harmony. Every human who serves on them does so by choice, connecting to a greater purpose. She gestured to the earth hanging above them. We transformed our world into a garden, but we didn't stop there. We looked to the stars and saw the same patterns we had nearly fallen victim to. The strong dominating the weak, advanced civilizations exploiting developing ones. The endless cycle of conquest and resistance. And you appointed yourselves our guardians. A hegemony representative demanded. What gave you that right? Nothing gave us that right, Elena replied softly. We took on that responsibility because we could, and because no one else would. Our power comes with a price. The ability to feel the consciousness of every sentient being in our range. We feel their fear, their pain, their hope. How could we not act? The hologram shifted one final time, showing the network of black ships spread across the galaxy. We don't seek to rule or to judge. We seek to preserve the diversity of consciousness itself. Every civilization in this room has something unique to offer the universe. A unique way of thinking, of perceiving, of being. When one is destroyed or subjugated, that uniqueness is lost forever. She walked slowly around the chamber, meeting the eyes, optical sensors, and sensory organs of each representative. The technology you've witnessed, the power you've seen demonstrated, these are not weapons. They're tools of preservation. We can reshape space and time, not because we conquered these forces, but because we learned to work in harmony with the fundamental consciousness that underlies reality itself. Our ships appear black because they absorb all wavelengths of light, she continued. But they also absorb something far more important, the quantum echoes of consciousness itself. When we intervene, we don't just stop attacks. We understand why they happened. We feel the fear, the anger, the desperation that drives them. The chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the most skeptical representatives seemed transfixed by the implications of what they were hearing. You've called us mysterious, unknowable, Elena said. But we're not. We're what any species can become when they choose to turn away from dominance and toward protection. When they realize that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to preserve. She raised her hand, and a hologram showed one final image, the galaxy itself, teeming with countless points of light, each representing a conscious mind. This is what we protect. Not territory, not resources, not even leads alone, but the infinite variety of thought and experience that makes our galaxy worth preserving. The truth hung in the air like a challenge and a promise. Humanity hadn't just changed the rules of power, they had transcended them entirely. They had become something new, not through conquest or technological superiority, but through a fundamental shift in how they viewed their role in the cosmos. The great chamber of New Geneva Station hummed with tension in the days following Dr. Elena Chen's revelation. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered in small groups, their discussions intense and often heated. The truth about humanity's evolution and their role as guardians had shaken the foundations of galactic society. Ambassador Zarek Tell found herself in the station's observation dome, watching the black ships that now openly patrolled Earth's orbit. They no longer hid their presence, their sleek forms a reminder of both humanity's power and their restraint. Magnificent, aren't they? The voice belonged to Supreme Commander Vex, of all people. The hegemony leader's scales had a subdued sheen, reflecting his changed demeanor since the incident in the Centauri cluster. "I never expected to find you admiring human ships," Zara observed, her 4 eyes studying his expression carefully. "When you've seen what I've seen," Vex let the thought trail off, "they could have destroyed us all. Instead, they showed us something far more powerful than destruction." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime that echoed throughout the station. The final assembly was beginning, the moment when each civilization would declare their stance on humanity's role in the galaxy. The chamber had been rearranged. Instead of the traditional hierarchical seating that placed the most powerful civilizations at the center, the representatives sat in a perfect circle. Dr. Chen stood in the middle, her presence somehow both humble and commanding. "Before you make your declarations," she began, "know that humanity will continue its mission regardless of your decision. We don't seek permission or approval. We seek understanding and perhaps cooperation." The silicon consciousness spoke first, their crystalline form pulsing with complex patterns. "We have analyzed human consciousness technology. The implications are transformative. We vote to accept humanity's role and request deeper collaboration in consciousness studies." One by one, the representatives spoke. The Diraxian Empire, chastened by their failed attack in the Centauri cluster, pledged to reform their expansionist policies. The Cronin hierarchy proposed a joint protection initiative. Even the hegemony, through Vex, acknowledged the need for a new approach to galactic relations. But not all were convinced. A bloc of militaristic civilizations, led by the Zaraxian Collective, voiced their opposition. "You claim to protect, but you enforce your will upon us all," their representative argued. "How are you different from any other empire?" Elena's response was not in words. Instead, she raised her hand, and the chamber's holographic systems activated one final time. But instead of showing images, they transmitted pure consciousness, the combined experiences of 1,000 worlds, the joy and fear and hope of countless beings. For a brief moment, every representative felt what humanity felt every day. They experienced the weight of knowledge and responsibility that came with such awareness. They understood, finally, why humans had chosen to become guardians. When the experience faded, the chamber was silent. The Zaraxian representative, their metallic exoskeleton quivering slightly, spoke again. "We withdraw our opposition. We don't ask you to change who you are," Elena said softly. "We ask only that you recognize the right of all conscious beings to develop in their own way, free from domination or exploitation." High Admiral Xerxes, who had watched the proceedings in thoughtful silence, rose to make the final statement. "We have spent millennia building empires, measuring power in terms of territory controlled and resources dominated. Humanity has shown us a different path, one where power serves protection, where advancement serves preservation." He turned to address the entire assembly. "The choice before us is not whether to accept human guardianship. They will continue their mission regardless. The choice is whether we will learn from their example and evolve beyond our own limitations. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. The galaxy's civilizations would not just accept humanity's role, they would work to understand and support it. Research exchanges were proposed, joint protection initiatives planned, and new protocols established for supporting developing civilizations. As the assembly concluded, Zara found herself back in the observation dome. Earth still hung in space before her, but she saw it differently now. This small blue world had produced a species that had not only mastered the physical laws of the universe, but had chosen to use that mastery for protection rather than dominance. A black ship passed silently through her field of view, its surface seeming to bend light itself. But now she understood. It wasn't just a vessel of advanced technology. It was a symbol of what any species could become when they chose wisdom over power, protection over dominance. The galaxy was entering a new age. The strong would no longer prey upon the weak, not because they couldn't, but because they had learned a better way. And in the darkness between the stars, humanity's black ships would continue their eternal vigil, silent guardians of a future where consciousness itself was the greatest resource worth protecting. As if responding to her thoughts, the black ship paused in its patrol. For a brief moment, Zara felt a touch of consciousness against her own, an acknowledgement, a welcome, and a promise. They would never be alone in their journey forward. Among the stars, humanity watched, waited, and protected, asking nothing in return except the chance to preserve the infinite diversity of galactic consciousness.